Welcome, everyone. You're listening to Clock In with Stephanie D. I am your host, Stephanie Droulard. Thank you for clocking in with me today. In this episode, we'll explore strategies to become more effective communicators. Communication is a skill that we can't escape, whether we're at home, work, out in our communities, online, etc. We're constantly communicating. But how often is our message received the way it was intended? How often do we comprehend exactly what's being shared with us? And how well do we infer what isn't being said? Joining us today is Angelina Buckley, a certified Maxwell leadership coach, speaker, and trainer, as well as the CEO of Advanced Better Coaching and Training. With over 30 years of experience in leadership, communication, and international sales, Angelina equips professionals, executives, and entrepreneurs to lead with clarity, communicate with confidence, and drive meaningful results. Her coaching and training programs focus on unlocking leadership potential, building trust, and transforming communication to strengthen team performance. As a DISC certified consultant, she helps individuals and organizations understand behavior styles to reduce conflict and improve collaboration. A dynamic speaker and mentor, Angelina empowers her clients to become influential leaders who create workplaces where people feel heard, valued, and inspired to grow. Whether working with corporations, chambers of commerce, or rising leaders, she brings energy, strategy, and a deep passion for helping others thrive. Welcome, Angelina.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I am excited to be here sharing
Yes.
what I'm passionate about, which is how to communicate more effectively.
Yes.
Now, for starters, I am going to talk a little bit about DISC, and this is the Maxwell Leadership Communications DISC, because to communicate more effectively, it's very important for a person to know how they come across.
Mhm.
So, how they get to know themselves so they can make adjustment, as well as knowing themselves and how to make adjustment to communicate effectively. It's also provides an opportunity for people to understand behavioral situation. So I'm going to start talking a little bit about DISC. It is a very powerful yet simple behavior assessment that helps a person understand how they show up in communication, in decision making, and relationship. So both at work and life. It breaks down behavior into four styles. The Maxwell leadership take this one step further by integrating principle of personal growth and leadership development. It's not about knowing your style, but it is about learning how to lead yourself and others more effectively. So we're going to start with the first one, which is D. D is dominance. They're very fast paced, results driven, and direct. A high D person may come across too direct, harsh in email and in their speech. So knowing that will allow the person to add a little bit of warmth and clarity to improve how their message is received. So interesting enough, because this is a study that was done, and it is said that 3% of the population are these. So I'm going to break the other ones, which is I. The next one is I for influence. These people are outgoing, enthusiastic, and relationship focused. So that's 11% of the population. And then the S is for steadiness, calm, dependable, and supportive. That's 69% of the population. And C is conscientious, analytical, detail oriented, and quality focused. So you can imagine if a person with a D, a person that's D, come in contact or have to communicate with a C, which is very detail oriented, and the D is fast paced, results driven, and direct, there can be a clash
Mm-hmm.
or misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, again, it is important to know what each ladder stands for, because with this test, the person understand themselves, but they are going to be able to understand and pick up what others are. And then it is important for them to adjust. So if the C is communicating with a D, knowing that the D doesn't know all the details that the C finds very important. And
Mm-hmm.
the S, that's very people oriented, they are a little bit warm. So if the D is going to communicate, they have to adjust as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and vice versa. So the S, if they're going to communicate with the D, to go more directly to the point, remember to include the end results and so forth and so forth. So when people understand their disc style, they gain insight into how they communicate, how they handle stress as well, how they may be misunderstood, and even more important, they learn how to adapt to others to build trust, to reduce conflict, and improve collaboration. So that's why I think it's so important to have assessments done. So the more a person understands themselves and other people, the more effective they can communicate. When also in communicating, it is very important for the person to be actively listening, especially nowadays that we have so many distractions. We have emails, we have the computer, we have people talking. Everybody wants their what they need very quick.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they don't pay attention when somebody is talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, the key is listen to understand and not to reply. Use body language, eye contact if possible, because sometimes a person might be out of the office. A lot of people work from home, some started to go back to work, but the key is to listen, stop what you're doing, because multitasking, even though people think they can do it, it ends up taking more time at the end versus taking the time at the moment to understand. And also ask for feedback, because the person that you ask that is talking to you, if you ask for feedback and make sure you understand what they meant and what they need, they also are going to appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Altogether, it has a more beneficial effect than if a person tries to half understand and half do their work. And I have to say, I used to do that a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
was very busy and I thought multitasking, kind of listen halfway
Mm-hmm.
and not paying attention. So then I didn't know where I was working on.
Yes.
And I assumed that I heard what the person was trying to tell me or what they need. So
Mm-hmm.
I have learned that it doesn't work. I take a time, plus it is more stressful as well.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I learned to take a, or if you cannot listen to the person, ask them, listen, I have something that I need to finish. This is not a good time. Can we get together, or can we go over this a little bit later?
Mm-hmm.
Make an appointment. Actually, that's much more respectful
Mm-hmm.
than trying to kind of pretend
Pretend you understand, right?
yes, understand, and then they walk away, and then you have to go back, or you give them something they didn't ask for,
Mm-hmm.
and all this misunderstanding that comes in. So active listening is very, very important instead of jumping to solutions.
Mm-hmm. I
So
see.
The other thing that's very important is verifying if what you heard is what was said. And that also will take away from being so overwhelmed. You miss misunderstand what was said, and then you go do something, and that was not what was being asked. So
Mm-hmm.
active listening extremely important, because that is an art that has been neglected because of so many distractions that we have. So what I would like to ask or our audience today is, what is one habit you can change this week to become a better listener?
Mm-hmm.
So that is being intentional about taking the time to listen better and verify what was heard. That is also putting listening as a priority. Listen to understand.
Absolutely. Listen to
So
understand.
that's one thing that is a good thing to practice. And the
Mm-hmm.
other thing, the one person that is talking, be clear and concise.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times we can say, and I used to be like that, I would think of things aloud. So clarity and conciseness is very important. So before a person speaks, they have to think a little bit, bring clarity and conciseness to their own mind, and then they go ahead and they speak. And I have done a lot of training, and that is something that people, they're in a hurry, and they want to, before they forget, they want to say what they need, and then they're not clear, so it becomes a whole misunderstanding, and all
Mm-hmm.
that adds to stress and lack of trust and a lot of emotions that are not very positive and accommodating in the workplace. So, for clarity and conciseness, avoid jargon or over explaining.
Mm-hmm.
People crave clarity,
Mm-hmm.
especially in high stress environment.
Okay.
So instead of saying, I was just thinking that maybe we could possibly consider revisiting the timeline. Say, let's review the timeline today and adjust where needed. It's
Mm-hmm.
very simple. There is no room for misunderstanding and the stress and all the stuff. So, again, I always like to ask the question to the listeners, might you be overcomplicating a message? Because I have encountered that a lot. There is
Mm-hmm.
a lot of talk towards the end. Nobody knows what is the conclusion. So recapping, saying, okay, this we're going to brainstorm. This is the conclusion, and this is the recap. So
Mm-hmm.
again, people walk away. It could be from meetings, might be supervisors or colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
Before you walk away with not understanding, make sure you understand. Because a lot of times we think the other person is not clear or the other person is not considerate, but what are we doing to make it much more efficient? So where can we kind of simplify things? Where can we listen better? Because it's good for us, it's good for the team, and production goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And also the tone, the
Mm-hmm.
voice says a lot.
Yes.
Other time people don't realize that their voice is not congruent with what the words they're using.
Mm.
So if a person is going to say something, think, okay, how is my body language? How is my voice?
Right.
Am I saying good morning in a pleasant way, or I'm saying good morning? That's not that's not really a good morning. So always try to put a little bit of intention, a little bit of kindness,
Mm-hmm.
because whatever we sow, we reap. So if we go with kindness, we go with compassion, we go with politeness as well, because one of the things that is very noticeable in the workplace is people are not really polite and considerate.
Mm-hmm.
So it benefits the whole organization, the department, the colleagues to have that, like we used to call it, golden rule.
Mm-hmm.
Treat others as you want to be treated.
Right.
And again, nowadays everybody wants to be quick, everybody wants to be first, and that takes away. They want to be first with what's going on, not taking the time to really verifying also
Mm-hmm.
what they heard, because not everything, especially with social media, not everything we hear is accurate. So
Right.
before we start spreading things that are not accurate. Again, the same thing with being a supervisor or a colleague is when they want to give a compliment,
Mm-hmm.
say it and mean it, and don't say it in, oh, good job. I mean, is it, do you really mean it or not?
Right.
And again, take the time to really mean what's being said. So I don't know if you have
So,
any questions, I can go on.
yeah, of course. I'm gonna go over some of the points you reviewed and recap to make sure that I understand, right?
Yes, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
So you're reviewing the DISC method of
Yes,
communication, right? So it's DISC. D is
yes,
dominance. Those are the communicators that tend to be more harsh, more direct, more results oriented.
yeah,
I is for influence. They're more outgoing and enthusiastic, and they're relationship builders.
yes,
Then we have the S for steadiness, right? And
yes.
can you review the steadiness for me? The type of
Yes,
communicators they are.
the S, because with all the ones that we mentioned, there
Hmm.
are the positive and the negative.
Hmm.
So, as for instance, their fear is fear loss of security, or they don't like confrontation.
Ah, okay.
So they are a relationship, they show and receive affection verbally, measure a person's desire for stability and security, higher
Mm,
desire to complete one project before beginning the next. When you deal with a person that's an S, avoid being pushy, be open, friendly, and easygoing. Talk
mm,
less,
mhm.
take time to know them and listen and be friendly.
Be friendly.
So again, you can see the S is people oriented and the D is task oriented. So you can
Okay.
see that there could be conflict
Yes. Oh, yeah.
if
I
a
can see that.
person doesn't realize, okay, he is, fast and he wants quick answer.
Yes.
And if the D goes to talk to a person that says yes, they have to consider not being pushy, saying it with a nice, listen, I need such and such. Can you, it's very important if I get it quickly, because the S is very supportive and they want to really cooperate, but you have to know how to talk to them.
So is it safe to say that the steadiness communicators, they tend to be more passive,
Yes,
people pleasers,
yes,
and
yes,
okay, so they're more easygoing and they kind of just
yes,
go along with what's being said for the
yes.
most part,
Yeah,
right?
they're very passive. Yes,
Okay, very passive. And then the C for conscientious, these are analytical communicators,
yes,
detail oriented, and they're focused on the end result,
yes. And
right? They
also, they're very compliant. They want to make
very
sure the T's are crossed, the T's, yes, are
ah,
crossed, the I, they're very correct.
okay, okay.
And they like research. Sometimes they can suffer from analysis paralysis
Mm.
because they don't want to make mistakes.
Oh, that's what they're focused on, just not making mistakes, but they're missing. the message. They're missing the point sometimes
Exactly.
of the
Yes.
conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting. So, with these four types of communicators, when we are in a conversation and we're noticing that there's a clash, a difference of opinion, or for whatever reason, the two or more people are not connecting, we
Yes.
should try to understand where's the breakdown coming from,
Exactly.
right? Try to understand who we're talking to. And there's a
Exactly.
possibility that how you interpret something is not how they're interpreting,
Exactly.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Well, then to your point, once we make that determination, that's when we have to start to adjust either
Exactly.
our tone, our delivery, our
Yes.
message. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. I love that. And so the major takeaway here is listening, active listening,
Yes.
right? That's
Yeah.
that's more than half the battle. If you're actually taking the time to listen to what's being said to you, and not only just listening, but reiterate, provide the feedback, provide a recap to ensure that you understand and that your listener knows you understand,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
All
by
right.
listening, you capture a lot of clues. So the
Mm-hmm.
listening, start by listening. And, many years ago, there was a book by Stevie Covey, and it says, first seek to understand,
Mm-hmm.
then to be understood. Because
Okay. Okay.
ultimately, when we're dealing with people, it's
Mm-hmm.
not about us, it's about the other people, the other person or other persons.
Mm-hmm.
We want to connect with them so that we can have collaboration with them.
Correct. Correct. Positive, amicable collaboration.
Exactly. Yes. And
Right.
there is more trust. If you
Exactly.
approach people the way they are, they appreciate it. And then they
Right.
are more willing to collaborate.
Exactly. That's true. They are more willing to collaborate. And for example, let's say you have bad news to share. You know,
Exactly.
if it's a manager who needs to share something with an employee, a coworker with a coworker, a parent with a child, whatever it may be, if you're already working on positive, intentional communication, then they're able to take that difficult conversation better because you've already
Yes.
established a strong relationship with that person.
Exactly. 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 For instance, a person misses a deadline.
Hmm.
So rather than, oh, you're late again, ta ta la 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 la, what got in the way that you missed the deadline?
Hmm.
There might be something. So
Right.
we
That's
try
true.
to understand, so that opens the space for conversation and problem solving.
Absolutely. I
So
love
we
that.
will provide with powerful questions. Try to understand why they missed the deadline.
Hmm.
It might be something happened, they didn't understand the assignment, and then by being able to communicate, oh, you didn't understand, well, next time, you kind of solve a problem rather
Hmm.
than you attack a person and then already they shut down and then
Ah,
you lose the connection.
you lose a connect. Yes. So you're saying focus on the problem, not the person per se,
Exactly.
right?
Why
Okay.
is
Okay.
it that they miss the deadline?
Hmm. Why? Exactly.
It is so important. We all communicate,
Hmm.
but to be effective, we have to connect.
Mm,
I try to understand you, and by trying to understand you, you appreciate, and then you try to understand me. And then
correct.
we don't start assuming, attacking, whatever.
Right. Right.
So
Oh.
I think that is a skill that is lost. We come to conclusion fast. We kind of know she, he, whatever. No, just take the time and get deep into what is going on. After a while, you kind of, it'll definitely be clear if the person is lacking, they're not on the assignment that their strength is in. Because the other thing
Mm,
is, if a person is very task oriented, and then
Mhm.
they are in a position where they have to be people oriented,
Mhm.
that stresses them out.
Yes. Yep. I understand that.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
sometimes people like to go in their little office with, and they get the job done, but not too many people come and talk to them.
Yes, that's true. They give off a vibe that they're antisocial or
Exactly.
negative and people stay away. But it's if we try to understand that person, it's just that they're task oriented.
They
That's
are task
how their
oriented.
brain is wired. It's nothing against the others. That's just how their brain is wired.
Exactly, because I have had that situation in companies that a C person that wants their task, they want the details, and then
Hmm.
they deal with an I,
Hmm.
and the I is not detailed oriented,
Hmm.
and this C person comes and asks so many questions, and the I feels that they're not being trusted, but it has nothing to do with.
Oh,
It's just
I
they want
see.
as much information, then they want to go sit and deal with all that information.
Oh
So,
my goodness. No, this is really enlightening. Oh, very, very much enlightening.
so
So we need to seek to understand the person or the people that we are speaking to. Seek to
yes,
understand them first and then be
yeah,
understood. And
yeah,
that takes active listening, trying
yes,
to be in the moment and intentional,
yes,
provide the feedback, provide a recap, ask questions for clarity,
yes,
avoid multitasking while you're listening because
yes,
you are going to miss things. We will
yes,
miss
yes, yes,
important things, even
yes,
things that are not being said. We're going to miss that too
exactly.
if we're multitasking.
Yeah,
Excellent, excellent. Oh my
and
goodness, I love this.
I do these kind of things with companies,
Hmm.
individuals, because even in couples,
Hmm.
a lot of times opposite attract. But then, how do you understand somebody that's opposite of you
Yes,
unless you go in more depth?
right, exactly. It's
And
going to
a
take some
lot
work.
of couples have understand. Oh, my wife is like that. Oh, that's what it is.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Rather than, oh, you're not listening. You don't understand me.
Yes, you don't understand me.
Whatever was attractive at the beginning becomes a nuisance later on, unless they understand each other.
Very true. Excellent. I really appreciate this breakdown. This is very helpful. I know that the listeners are going to appreciate this as well. So, once again, the four areas of communication: dominance, influence, steadiness, and
Yes,
conscientious. And seek to understand those who you
yes,
are communicating with, then be understood. That's one major
exactly.
point. Second
Yeah,
major point, practice active listening. Be
yes,
in the moment, be intentional, and be
yes,
clear when you're responding. Listen to understand, not to reply.
exactly.
It will
Yes.
make a world of difference in that relationship, in that connection that you're building with whether it's a colleague, a family member, a
Yes.
friend, etc.
Seen so many big difference. That's why I'm so passionate, because I
Yeah,
step in situations that people, they are like about to kill each other
yeah.
because they don't understand.
They don't understand. Yes,
You
and all that
don't
tension is
you can help.
unnecessary.
Exactly. It's not necessary.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Well, this is such a really enlightening discussion. I really appreciate you reviewing this method with us today, Angelina. Thank you so much.
You're very
To my listeners, to my listeners, if you're interested in working with Angelina, or if you'd like to secure her services for your team, your company, or even for your own professional
yes.
endeavors,
Yeah.
please reach out to Angelina Buckley on her
Yeah.
LinkedIn page, or you can schedule a 30-minute session with her on her Calendly scheduling system,
My website as well.
your
Angelina
website,
Buckley. Yes.
angelinabuckley.com,
Yes. And I have
angelinabuckley.com.
some leadership strategies and things like that. So, yes.
Excellent. Angelina has a lot to offer, guys. So definitely take advantage and reach out to her and schedule a session with her and see how she can help you and your team improve and become better communicators.
Yes.
All
Thank
right,
you.
excellent.
So
Thank you
thank
so
you
much for
so much.
joining
And you
me.
have your quote so you can get to know more of this.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for clocking in with me today and for listening. Your support means so much. And I will see you soon. Bye bye for now.